Hello English learners, welcome back to another video. This is Michael here with Level Up English. And today I'm in the Cornish countryside once again. The goal on this channel is to present the English language in a way that is fun and enjoyable while showing you a little bit of the UK, parts of London, areas outside of London as well, such as where we are today. So if you're interested in practicing your English while having a little bit of an unusual outside lesson, then this is the place for you. I'm near a village called Minions, which is locally quite well known for its mining history. According to the internet, it also just happens to be the highest village in Cornwall at about 300 meters above sea level. So it's a little interesting fact, but you can see it down here now. Very small village surrounded by old ruins of mining buildings. So I want to show you some of this today. And as always, while I show you this, I'm going to be teaching some useful English vocabulary as well. Useful English phrases, expressions, that kind of stuff. So hopefully you can enjoy the scenery, learn about the history a little bit, and learn some English as well. So you've got all these different things in one video. There are also quite a few places like this dotted around. This is what we call a quarry, which is basically like a big pit where they dig lots of stone. Most of these now are over 100 years old. They're quite old now, but the ruins are still here today. And you might even be able to see there's still some old mining equipment rusted away in the water there. So this word quarry, it's not the most useful word to be honest, but it can be referring to this pit here, like this noun, or it can be a verb, like to quarry something is to dig something, but it's not really an everyday word, to be honest, unless you're really into mining. So you should be able to see down there at the bottom of the valley, there's lots of hills. These are man-made hills from the quarrying days. Beyond the hills over there, if it's not too bright, you should see some old ruins, these big chimneys from the mining days. So these are dotted all over Cornwall, these old chimneys, and we're going to have a look at some today. So the adventure today is going to take us to an old mine shaft. A mine shaft is like a huge hole in the ground from the mining days. That might be exciting to see. So we'll go see that in a minute. And we're going to see some old mining ruins as well. Now, most of the mining here happened, I believe, in the 1800s, and a lot of these little villages around Cornwall sprung up to support the mining industry. So I suppose this is where like the workers would have lived. That phrasal verb I just used, by the way, spring up, we'd say to spring up. So settlements and villages began to spring up. They sprung up in the past tense. To spring up just means to emerge or increase suddenly or appear suddenly. Think of like a flower growing out of the ground. It springs up very quickly before you know it. So anything that appears almost out of nothing suddenly, you can say it springs up. If you think of any more examples, let me know in the comments. Here are the ruins of a very old building. I have no idea how old, but it's almost not recognizable anymore. So maybe it's a few hundred years old, who knows? There's also evidence here of structures and things dating back to the Bronze Age period as well. Things like standing stones we have, a little bit like Stonehenge, but smaller. And I find this so fascinating because that could be, several thousand years old. It could be 4,000 years old or something like that. Even though the land looks quite barren here, barren means empty and lifeless. It may look barren, but it has been inhabited, lived in, for a long, long time, thousands of years. Another thing I'm a really big fan of is geocaching. I don't know if any of you know what this is, but it's basically like a game, an app where you find hidden containers all around the world. Probably you have them in your country as well. And this one here I've been trying to find for ages and I just found it. So I just signed the notebook here. You have to sign your logbook, but look at that one. So this one here is hidden inside a rock. That's incredibly difficult. Let's screw that back on. Look at that. I can't believe I found that one, but there, it's in that rock. And you might think, oh, it's not so hard, just look in one rock. But then you have a look at how many rocks there are here. There's a lot. So I was thinking about making a video on this topic in the future about geocaching. If you're interested in that, let me know. I think it could be quite a fun one. In terms of wildlife here, you will find mostly sheep. Sometimes you'll find horses as well, but mostly sheep. And here I have found the black sheep, walking all alone. So he's surrounded by white sheep over there, up there. But here is the black sheep. There he goes. Not really too bothered about me. In English, we say you are a black sheep if you are a member of your family who is different from everyone else, basically. So let's say your whole family love listening to music, but you hate it, you really don't like it. All you want to do is go hiking, like what I'm doing now. So you're a little bit different, and that means you're the black sheep. You're the one that is not the same as everyone else. And just like in that metaphor, this black sheep is also all alone and he's doing what he wants. So leave a comment and let me know if you are the black sheep in your family. Another good expression related to sheep, like the sheep around me here, is the word sheeple. Sheeple. There's one right now. So this word sheeple, it's a kind of a slang term, and it's a... Oh, he's peeing. That's so rude to pee in my video. This word sheeple is a slang term, and it's a combination of the word sheep and people. Sheeple. If you are sheeple, that basically means you're someone who just copies what everyone else does. It's almost the opposite of a black sheep in some way. But people who buy Apple products like iPhones often get accused of being called sheeple because they don't think for themselves, they don't decide what to get, they just get the same thing that everyone else has. You know, I disagree with that. I think they're great, but the comparison here is that sheep just follow each other and they don't have any independent thought. And if you are sheeple, it's the same. So don't be sheeple, be an independent thinker. But maybe you can think of other ways in which people can be sheeple. Okay, so now we have come to our first mineshaft of the trip. And these are quite scary. I mean, the idea of them is really terrifying for me. But a mineshaft, this word shaft, is normally something quite long. A shaft can be like a pole or something like that. But when it comes to mining, a shaft is like a big tunnel underground where the people used to go to collect ore out of the ground. Ore is just a kind of metal. In this case, it's tin and copper, two types of metal that they were digging here over 100 years ago. But of course, the mines are still here, the holes are still here. So they have been fenced off, as you can see. So to be fenced off means to be protected and enclosed with a fence. I don't like this one because this one is barbed wire, which means it's got these spikes on it, and it ripped my jacket last week, so I wasn't very happy about it. But yeah, this one is very interesting. You can see there's lots of rubble and old metal and rubbish inside the shaft. And of course you can't get too close, you wouldn't want to get too close, but it's probably very, very deep. And if you look in the direction we're going, you can see more ruins of old mining buildings. So we're going to go over there now. So as far as I know, all of the mines in Cornwall have now been fenced off, and there's signs up and there's warnings about it. But you still have to be careful, and you shouldn't underestimate how dangerous they can be, because they do collapse from time to time. There was one that did collapse a few years ago. So collapse means to fall down, and then the ground gave way. So to give way, this is a really useful phrasal verb. It can mean to fall through. So the ground was flat, and then the ground, the earth, fell into the hole. The ground gave way, and what was left was a 213 meter hole into the earth. So it's incredibly, incredibly deep, and a lot of them go much, much deeper than that as well. So there have been stories in the past about people and dogs accidentally falling down the mine shafts, but a lot of them are not straight down. Some of them will go down, then sideways, then down. So thankfully, a lot of the people who have fallen down have been rescued successfully. You know, when I was a child, I used to throw rocks down the mine shaft. And what was so scary about that is you could hear the sound as the rock bounced off the walls. And you usually would expect to hear, you know, bounce, bounce, crash when it hits the bottom. But the really terrifying thing is that sometimes you would never hear it hit the bottom. You would hear bounce, 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 until it got so quiet that you couldn't hear it anymore. And that really gave you a sense of how deep these mine shafts were, or are. So here we've come to a large area of old mining activity now. You can also see lots of rabbits have made their home here too. So when you come out in the evening, you might get lucky and see some rabbits running around. But see, there's a lot of little holes under here, which maybe they'll come out and say hello. And that reminds me of a good expression, which is to get lost down a rabbit hole. I think this is kind of related to Alice in Wonderland, in which she does that, right? Where you go down the rabbit hole, and once you get underground, it's like a maze, and you get lost and you do not know how to leave the hole. So we can use this expression when you start doing something. It could be a conversation or an activity, and then you lose track of time, and then you get lost down the rabbit hole. One that I use all the time is the YouTube rabbit hole, because it happens to me a lot. I get lost down the YouTube rabbit hole. That means I start watching one video, and before I know it, I have been watching for hours. So it's really easy to get lost down that YouTube rabbit hole. But let me know what rabbit hole you get lost down. So you'll notice here there's a newer metal fence around this one. And this is because this is an old copper mine that had a collapse recently. So they have extended the fence to protect people so they don't fall down. But you can see behind the building there, there's the old fence, and then it collapsed down 200 meters into the ground. It was a time when there was a period of heavy rain, and then a 6-meter wide shaft opened up in the ground. And it makes me wonder, how do I know it's not going to happen again when I'm standing right here? Who knows? This might be the hole that opened up. I'm not exactly sure, but it could be this one. But here you can see a mine shaft right at the top. It's covered in old metal and rubble, but it's so scary how close I am to that. Now, of course, I do realize that you are not here probably to learn lots of boring vocabulary related to mining that you'll probably never use. So let's finish with one useful term that you can use in your everyday life. So what the miners were doing here was unearthing old copper and tin ore. They were unearthing the ore. To unearth means to dig up from the earth, to uncover or discover something in the ground. So that's the literal basic meaning. To literally dig something out of the ground is to unearth something. But we can also use it for almost a synonym, the same meaning as the word discover. If you discover something new or interesting, you can use this verb to unearth. So for example, perhaps I unearthed something interesting while gossiping with my friends. Maybe my friend told me that my other friend was pregnant, and I unearthed that interesting gossip. I discovered that gossip. Or perhaps when you are looking into your family's history, your family tree, you might find that you're related to the king or someone famous, and that is a great discovery to unearth. So you can say to your friends, look, I have unearthed this great news that I am actually the cousin of Brad Pitt. I don't know. Let me know if that's true for you. I think we will call it a day here. I hope you found this video interesting Don't forget that if you find I'm speaking too quickly, it's hard to keep up with me, I do put the full transcript up on my website, Level Up English. So this is available for the members, they get transcript. Sometimes I make a quiz to practice these new words, and I often make bonus worksheets to go along with these videos as well. So it's not just watching a video, you're also learning and getting the most out of it too. So if you're interested in that and seeing what else we have to offer over on Level Up English, then click the link in the description. For now, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye everyone.